Mishaberach avotenu mikol habracha v'imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mikol habracha v'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Beautiful. And we remember all those who are recovering and need healing. Amen. So this evening I have a question. Why is it that God did all these things to the Israelites and all the things to the Egyptians? Why? Why the big commotion?
To show his power and dominion. That's it.
Anyone else? Jordan's coming in.
That's why he couldn't just do one thing. He had to really keep doing it to really rub it into everybody, to really make them see it. You know?
Hey, Jordan.
I don't
Jordan.
Sorry to be late. I was doing something important. I had to change the water in my goldfish bowl. Just a joke.
That's important. Yeah. It's important to the goldfish. Yeah.
Right. And
what did you say, Braca?
Yeah.
I said that it was not a matter of showing power. It was a matter of showing that the Israelites were his people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Me'am Loev says.
Yeah. That's a great point. Anybody else? The question was, Jordan, why did God do all these things to get the Israelites out of Egypt? Why? That's the question.
He was anti-Semitic? No, I don't know why. That's not the answer. I know that.
He's an anti-Semitic.
I have an explanation. My explanation.
Okay.
I think you hit it. Use the word plural. There's a story in every single step, from going to Egypt to leaving Egypt to 40 years in the desert. It's, Mike, what you said, why he did those things, not thing. And there's a story for every little step as we go from start to finish. It's a course. It's a whole course in 40 years in teaching.
That's great. I like it. And the other, yeah, and I, it's open for interpretation. I love all our answers. I think one of the things that kind of was very surprising to me, because I was reading some of the commentary after, underneath a lot of the book here, and I'll share the book, the Torah. One of the things that the rabbis were saying is that it was the first time in the Torah that anyone praised God. When we see that the Song of the Sea, and also Miriam's dance, and that was very interesting. Does everyone? What do you think?
That is a very good point. I never thought of that. That is actually very good.
And so I think there was really a marriage going on here, kind of on a deeper level. It's like God does all these things, and then he gets this great rejoicing. A huge, just a absolutely fantastic. You saved us. We thought we were going to die, but you saved us, and it's remarkable. It's remarkable, and it's a great story.
But it also shows the human element, that they were as much as they rejoice, they complain. They rejoice, they complain. They rejoice, they complain. And that's what we all do. We all think, that we're so great, but then we start complaining over the littlest thing. I mean, it happens all the time in the human beings,
I was just thinking that this morning on the train. I was like, everyone alive today would complain 10 times more. Imagine any American being in the desert for even a week. They'd be out of their minds. Any American. Doesn't matter the religion, race, whatever. It would be like, what? We got to do what? We got to eat this manna? For 40 years, they ate the manna. Wow. Wow. All right, who wants to start this week? Jethro, priest of Midian.
I'll start.
All right, Ruthie.
Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, God's people, how the Eternal had brought Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom, that is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. And the other was named Eliezer, meaning the God of my father's house was my help, delivering me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought Moses' son and wife to him in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his tent. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. Wait a minute, I lost it. Wait a minute, where am I?
Right at the top.
Oh, is it where it says Moses? Okay.
Yeah.
Moses then recounted to his father-in-law everything that the Eternal had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had befallen them on the way, and how the Eternal had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced over all the kindness that the Eternal had shown Israel when delivering them from the Egyptians. Blessed be the Eternal, Jethro said, who delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Eternal is greater than all gods, yes, by the result of their very schemes against the people. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to partake of the meal before God with Moses' father-in-law. Next day, Moses sat as a magistrate among the people, while the people...
Ruthie, if we can hold on in here for a second, let me make a comment.
Sure.
Okay, we just heard from this portion that Moses had 2 sons, Gershom and Eliezer. Yet, for the rest of the Bible, Gershom or Eliezer don't do anything.
Interesting.
Isn't that right? Okay, so you got Gershom and you got Eliezer. See it right there, Mike?
Yeah, I got that. I was wondering, is there anything in the Talmud about it? Do they explain why?
I don't know.
Okay. That's what we have to look into next.
I have something. Can I throw in something interesting that I've always really found so interesting about this portion? And I've never read a commentary or anything that discusses it. But you notice how it repeatedly, in almost every sentence, the word chotain, father-in-law, it stresses Jethro, Moses' father-in-law. In every sentence, it reminds you his father-in-law. And I've even asked Rabbi Kudan about this, and he really didn't. But I was thinking, like myself, I think of my own personal life situation. Like, I think, like a lot of guys, you have, a strong relationship with their father-in-law. It's really weird because my father-in-law, my father was closer with my mother's father than he was with his own father. And even though I was close with my father, when I started going out with Bev, I got really, really close with her father. He was like a second father to me. And there's a lot of things that I feel like I learned in life from him that I hadn't gotten from my father. And it was really important. And I think there's something significant. You don't know about Moses' father, but you hear about Jethro. It just... You know, it's just kind of interesting. And,
Yeah, that is interesting.
It is.
you know, it repeatedly mentions it. There's a reason why everything is the way it is in the Torah.
Right.
Why does it keep mentioning that that's his father-in-law?
Right. And they do
It's
seem
Again, you only get the answers from the Talmud. I'm sorry, but that's how I learn things from the Torah's reading.
But all I'm saying is that it has to be significant because of the fact that it keeps repeating it.
Yeah.
We don't know what the significance is, but I'd guarantee you that there is some significance to it.
Right.
Gary, I just read that last night. Just what you said.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
we are on the same wavelength, I think.
Yes,
Wow,
just about
that's
the same
interesting.
thing. You're both on the same page, right?
Wow, that's great.
And it's almost doesn't it feel like Jethro is almost converting because he wasn't a believer.
He does kind of, I think.
He
I
does.
think he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Because he sees that God is more powerful than all the gods.
Right.
And that he saved them from...
Blessed
Did you
be
go
Egyptians.
ahead, Mike? Because this isn't. Oh, I thought you went ahead. Okay, never mind.
I was bouncing around a little bit.
Yeah, I thought you were bouncing around. You got me crazy for a minute, but that's okay.
All right, this is the first page, and I was just recounting like how Jethro was saying, "Blessed
Okay.
be the Eternal."
We have to stay in the present for everybody else.
Okay. All right, so we're at
Okay,
third.
so we're at next day, right? Next
Yes.
day, Moses, right? Next day, Moses sat as magistrate among the people, while the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. But when Moses' father-in-law saw how much he had to do for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing to the people? Why do you act alone while all the people stand about you from morning until evening?" Moses replied to his father-in-law, "It is because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes before me, and I decide between one party and another, and I make known the laws and teachings of God." You know what? It just occurred to me. Moses was the first rabbi because rabbi means teacher. So the truth of the matter is that he was acting like a rabbi.
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Well,
that's
he,
right.
well, he wasn't teaching. He was acting like a judge.
A judge, yeah.
Well,
That's what my
yeah,
husband
but you
was
know, a
doing.
lot of rabbis,
Sounds
people
like a
go to
judge to me.
rabbis for judgments and stuff, you know.
Ask the lawyer here. What does it sound like?
Sounded to me like he was doing some judicial judging activity to me.
I see.
That's what it was.
That's what I think.
So
He's
everybody
deciding
has their
between
own
one party and
viewpoint.
another.
I make known the laws and teachings of God, says Moses. Yeah.
Yeah, see?
That's
So,
great.
but teachings too. I don't think it was all judgments. I'm sorry,
Well,
lawyers.
and as you can see, and as you can see, as a lawyer, he makes it up as he goes along.
Whoa!
Oh, is
So
that
Mike-
a zinger, Jordan? Woo-hoo.
Michael and I have this line that goes, 99% of the lawyers give the rest a bad name.
Here comes Cynthia.
Hey, Cynthia! Woohoo!
Jordan,
Should I go on?
you know, historically, that's one of your best ones.
Thank you, Michael. I think you taught me that one.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi,
Hey,
Cynthia.
sorry, I'm late.
Cynthia.
There's no point. You're not going to the principal's office for being late, I promise.
Good.
All right.
Okay, so I
17.
continue?
Yep.
Okay, but Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing you are doing is not right. You will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You represent the people before God. You bring the disputes before God, and enjoin upon them the laws and the teachings, and make known to them the way they are to go and the practices they are to follow. You shall also seek out from among all the people capable deputies who fear God, trustworthy deputies who spurn ill-gotten gain. Set these over them as,"
Next page.
next page, "as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and let them judge the people of all time. Have them bring every major dispute to you, but let them decide every minor dispute themselves. Make it easier for yourself by letting them share the burden with you. If you do this and God so commands you, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied."
Okay, if we can hold on here for a second,
Yes.
Michael, I think that what we need to point out in this long paragraph, this is the principle of delegation.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree with you. Very important.
Yeah.
Just like
And also, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
Go
I was
ahead,
just going to say,
Ruthie.
like Clinton used to say, it takes a village.
Yeah.
With another thing that's interesting about the fact that this system is set up right now is it's set up right before the revelation and receiving the Torah. So it kind of the timing. It's almost like instead of just Moses being the sole person to interpret the Torah and God's laws for the children of Israel, it gets spread out more so that it has wider, it gets out to more people quicker, and you get more input and more like just like us, like we all have our interpretations, and Moses can teach them all, but they're all going to also have their own. So it also opens up to that. So all of this was put in place before we got the Torah in order to make the Torah work better once we got it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a great point. Absolutely.
I love it too how they go down to tens, right? So 10 is
Yeah. But you know what's very interesting?
minion.
Just what Gary said a little bit before. Is it interesting? The person who's telling him, you don't do the burden, is the father-in-law. It's the father-in-law that's saying that to him.
Well, also, what I think another issue with that is sometimes an outsider can look and get a better perspective than,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, he just, he comes back, he brings the grandkids and the wife back, and and he sees it from a different perspective.
Right.
And I think that's important, too. The fact that he is an outsider looking in.
Right.
And how important it is that the people don't get weary waiting in line just to talk to Moses, right? That would take them all week.
Delayed justice.
Right.
Delayed justice leads to a lot of
And
bad
I'm sure
stuff.
that some of them didn't like that he had all this power. Some people might have thought, well, why does he get all this power,
Don't jump ahead. That's the story of Korah.
All right.
Korah,
I'm
that's right.
just saying, that's how I would look at it, because you know me, I'm a rebel, so.
No, wait. Moses' father-in-law was from Cush, correct?
No,
No.
Midian.
Midian. He was a former
Midian.
Midianite priest. He was a
The
former
Midian.
priest. Right?
He was from Midian.
Ed, the Cush that you're thinking of is that there is a portion in the Exodus that Moses married a Cushite woman.
Correct. Which means her father would be a Cushite man.
Yeah. No,
So-
but Moses had more than one wife.
Okay.
Can I just throw one more brief thing also, is the fact that this is one of, I think it's 3 Torah portions that are named after non-Israelites. We have Noah, we have Yitro, and we have Balak,
Yeah.
Interesting.
who was the king of Midian.
I thought Moses was smart.
No, actually, I never thought of Moses as smart. I thought of him as he was I thought of him as the deliverer, but I don't think, you mean delivering the messaging, but I always thought that he was really just a conduit in the whole thing. It's interesting. I never thought of him as just
I
a
agree
leader.
with Ruthie. I agree with you, Ruthie.
He was in the right.
That's why God specifically chose somebody that wasn't necessarily a great speaker
That's
and
right.
it didn't matter because the message is more important than the
That's
messenger.
right. The message is more important.
Right.
Nice.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Who wants to pick up at 20? Jordan or Cynthia? Jordan, you want to go for it?
Sure. I'm all ready. Sure. Moses heeded his father-in-law and did just as he had said. Moses chose capable deputies out of all Israel and appointed them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s, and they judged the people at all times. That's like we have the chief judge, and we have a whole bunch of other lower judges all over Massachusetts. And they judge the people at all times. The difficult matters they would bring to Moses, and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. Then Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went his way to his own land.
Okay, Jordan, if you can hold on for just 1 second. Mike, and we go back up again just a little bit. Let me make a comment. Where it says the difficult matters they brought to Moses and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. There's another principle in here which is if you're running a big company, okay, is the principle of exception. That is to say, if you are the CEO of a company, only matters of exceptional importance are brought to you. Everything else is delegated to the lower levels. That's what this part says.
This is so when the buck starts passing, it gets to Moses, but everybody else tries to handle their own bucks. That's a good comment, Mike. I thought you were going to talk more about the art of delegation, which seems to be what was going on.
The delegation was the other one. In other words, rather than doing it all yourself, you start delegating. But now, once you start delegating, the principle of exception or management by exception is that only matters of exceptional importance are brought to you. So, for example, in the United States, only matters of exceptional importance in terms of the Constitution is brought to the Supreme Court. The lower courts take care of everything else. Am I right, Jordan?
Correct, always, as usual. All right, so I will keep reading on. The third new moon, after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, on that very day, they entered the wilderness of Sinai. Having journeyed from Rephidim, they entered the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, and Moses went up to God. The Eternal One called to him from the mountain, saying, "Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now then, if you will obey me faithfully and keep my covenant," this is such good stuff, isn't it? "You shall do something. Be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine, but you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and the holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel." Moses came and summoned the elders of the people and put before them all that the Eternal had commanded him. All those assembled answered as one, saying, "All that the Eternal has spoken, we will do." And Moses brought back the people's words to the Eternal. And the Eternal One said to Moses, "I will come to you in a thick cloud." Kind of reminds me of a joke. Anyway, "I will come to you in a thick cloud in order that the people may hear when I speak with you, and so trust you ever after." Then Moses reported the people's words to the Eternal. And the Eternal said to Moses, "Go to the people and warn them to stay pure today and tomorrow. Let them wash their wash their clothes." Boy, I was getting nervous there for a minute. "Wash their clothes. Let them be ready for the third day. And on the third day, the Eternal will come down in the sight of all the people on Mount Sinai. You shall set bounds for the people round about, saying, beware of going up the mountain or touching the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall be put to death without being touched, by being either stoned or shot. Beast or person, a trespasser, shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they may go up on the mountain."
Wait, can I just ask one thing? They didn't have guns at that point in life. When he says shot, you wouldn't be shot.
Maybe a slingshot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I
Just
see.
a thought. Why?
All right.
No, wait a minute though. I have a bunch of questions. Wow, this is like let's go back to the treasured possession among all peoples. Woohoo! That's pretty great. That's
We are treasured.
that's awesome. I'm jealous. How can I be treasured like the Israelites? And then you should become a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Oh my gosh, that's so.
Goy kadosh, kohanim v'goy kadosh. Right?
And of course, how that's the thing, because to me, Judaism is the birth gives birth to Christianity and Islam. That's to me. So it just to me, in my opinion, that rings true to me. That holds very true. That's a lot of truth right there. Without Judaism, we don't have Christianity, we don't have Islam. It's weird, but I love it. I love it. It's just amazing.
This is a beautiful portion, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very powerful.
And then the other one I had was the ram's horn. What is this signifying? When
The shofar.
Einer's the expert on
Ed,
that,
do
right?
you have your shofar ready? You have your shofar nearby you?
It's a steps away if you want me to blow the shofar.
Oh, I could get
Go right
mine
ahead.
too and blow it.
Go ahead, Ruth.
I have to go and get it in the other room.
Go Ed, go. You're a great shofar blower.
No. Ruth wants to do
I'll
it.
get it. One
Okay.
minute.
is this the start of? Because it's okay. So this is Moses is going up to meet the Eternal on Sinai, and no one can go up except for Moses, except after the ram horn sounds. Is that how I'm reading this? Is that?
Yes.
That's when he goes. Nobody else is supposed to approach the mountain, though.
No, but what Mike is saying is correct, is that nobody can go up there.
Right.
Yes, the shofar is sound, then you can go up.
Right.
I think I just scared all my neighbors.
Okay. Right, Ruthie, do it again. I didn't hear it.
Oh, God, you didn't hear it?
No.
Little people.
All right, everybody, we can go up and meet God. Hello, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Wow, that's incredible.
Very
That's
nice.
incredible.
Ever. Ram's horn among us. Yeah.
And here comes Ed.
The treasured possessions. Wow. Oh, Ed's coming too. Oh, wow. We're gonna get
He's gonna up me a little, I'm sure.
yeah from Melrose to Burlington. We're gonna wake up everybody.
This is a real treat.
Nice.
Yours is bigger than mine, Ed.
That's correct. You're going to borrow mine. Try it.
Bravo to all our shofar blowers. That's
Very
wonderful.
nice.
Wonderful. Awesome. Who wants to pick up at 14? How about Cynthia?
Sure. Moses came down from the mountain to the people and warned the people to stay pure, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, "Be ready for the third day. The men among you shall not go near a woman." On the third day, as morning dawned, there was thunder and lightning and a dense cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud blast of the horn. And all the people who were in the camp trembled. Moses led the people out of the camp toward God, and they took their places at the foot of the mountain.
Okay, can I ask everybody a question? Because, I don't know the answer, so I'm asking because I don't know the answer. We're talking about that all of this happened on the third day. What is the significance of the third day?
Well, also, what I thought we were reading too is that it's the third moon, on the third day of the third moon, after they left Egypt.
Is it because it's like a Tuesday? Like, well, you have like Shabbat. Well, no, they didn't have that yet. Shabbat, and then.
Okay, I never understood that.
Interesting. We'll have to look more into that.
Yeah. I'm just going down to the commentary to see if there's anything about it. I don't see anything. The horn is the shofar. The whole mountain trembled. Where were we?
Oh, we have some homework in here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Okay, I have a fabulous book I'm going to look at afterwards that gives a lot of explanations for this, so I'm going to
All right.
look at it.
All right, where were we at now? 18? Was that it?
Okay. Now Mount
Oh,
I think we're at 18. Yeah.
Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, for the Eternal had come down upon it in fire. The smoke rose like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The blare of the horn grew louder and louder. As Moses spoke, God answered him in thunder. The Eternal came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and the Eternal One called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. The Eternal One said to Moses, "Go down, warn the people not to break through to the Eternal to gaze, lest many of them perish. The priest also, who come near the Eternal, must stay pure, lest the Eternal break out against them." But Moses said to the Eternal, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, 'Set bounds about the mountain and sanctify it.'" So the Eternal said to him, "Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the people break through to come up to the Eternal, lest God break out against them." And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them.
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's what it's doing is now it's mentioning the commandments. That's what it's
Okay, so this is an important part, I guess. All right, so Cynthia, keep going, please.
God spoke all these words, saying, "I, the Eternal, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods besides me. You shall not make for yourself a sculptured image or any likeness of what is in the heavens above, or on the earth below, or in the waters under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them. For I, the Eternal, your God, am an impassioned God, visiting the guilt of the parents upon the children, upon the third and upon the fourth generations of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the thousandth generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not swear falsely by the name of the Eternal your God, for the Eternal will not clear one who swears falsely by God's name. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Eternal your God. You shall not do any work, you, your son or daughter, your male or female slave, or your cattle, or the stranger who is within your settlements. For in 6 days the Eternal made heaven and earth and sea, and all that is in them, and then rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Eternal blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor your father and your mother, that you may long endure on the land that the Eternal your God is assigning to you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor male nor female slave, nor ox nor ass, nor anything that is your neighbor's.
All right, I have a question.
I have a comment.
I have a question first. How do we get 10 commandments? These are like 30 commandments here.
Well,
How does it happen?
Mike, each one starts with something and then it goes into, there are 10.
Yeah, and it explains a little bit more. But I just want to mention something that if you notice, when you look at a Christian 10 commandments and you look at a Jewish 10 commandments, and the reason why I'm going to say this is because my daughter bought a Christian 10 commandments, not knowing it from the internet. And it says, "Thou shalt not kill," but in ours it says, "Thou shalt not murder." There's a difference between murder and killing, because murder is something that happens when, like you can't murder somebody with intent, okay? But if you kill somebody because for self-defense, that's a different thing. So there's more to it than that, but I'm giving you one example, okay?
Yeah. Okay, and Mike, I have a comment about this. A question was asked, and this is sort of like a Talmudic thing. A question is asked, is which one currently, which one of the 10 commandments is the most difficult one to follow?
Is it honor your mother and father?
Okay. You shall not covet.
Okay, well, the answer that is given, this is a story, so I'm going to tell you what the answer from the story is. It's honor your mother and
father. I just said that because that's the hardest one, because what if you don't like your mother and father, right?
So as parents live longer and longer, it becomes more and more difficult for the children to take care of their elderly parents. And there's an old Yiddish saying, is that two parents can take care of 10 children, but 10 children cannot take care of one parent.
Right. I have a thing on my refrigerator that says that mothers can take care of everything, but your children can't take care of your mother or something. I forgot how it goes, but it's in my. I have to get it. I forgot it already.
The significance about the not coveting, just in the general sense, if you focus more on God, the more you're focused on God, the less important any material things or objects are that you would covet. So the more that you're filled with God, the less you would covet things anyway. So that's really important.
You wouldn't be preoccupied in being horny.
Well, since
I mean with anything, not just like that. I mean in general, coveting anything.
Yeah.
Well,
If
since for a change we have Jordan in here, I have a joke for Jordan and for everybody else.
All right.
Okay, so Moses goes up the mountain, stays up there for 40 days and 40 nights, and everybody's waiting. So finally he comes down, and everybody comes over and says, well, what happened? And he says, I got good news and bad news. The good news is that I talked them down to only 10. And they said, what's the bad news? It says, the bad news, adultery stays.
Now, I have another question. And I do like bringing up the differences between the Christian and the Jewish traditions here, because this is really, really good stuff. I'm wondering, the Via Hafta that we chant, and
yes,
I love the Lord your God with all your heart,
my heart and all my soul.
Right, because I was looking for that in here, and I believe in the Christian version there's something about you shall have no gods besides me, you shall love and honor your God or something like that. I think we might put a phrase in here okay, so my question is, where does the Via Hafta come in? Where does that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body?
Okay, that actually is it's actually verbatim from the Bible. It is immediately after the Shema.
Shema. Oh, it's in Deuteronomy.
Yeah, it's in Deuteronomy.
Right.
So we're in Exodus, so we gotta.
Yeah, we have a ways to go. We have to stay in the present. Right?
Yeah, so right after you say the Shema, then you say,
you always say the Via Hafta after the Shema. Right?
Hallelujah.
That's where it is.
That's so great. Oh, I just, I enjoy this so much. I can't even tell you how precious this is. Just to be able to just absorb the Torah in such a casual way. It's just with such brilliant people. It's fantastic.
And Mike, if we go to the first commandment for a second, if you just scroll back, my question is this: why does it say you shall have no other gods besides me? Why doesn't?
Because in those days, a lot of people
shall have no other gods.
Yeah, because in those days people did pray to multiple gods, and they not only prayed to multiple gods, they prayed to the sun, they prayed to statues, they prayed to so many different things,
But then why doesn't God say, forget those guys, those are false gods, they shall have no other gods, period. And
besides me.
No, besides.
Well, I think because he had to say it in that day and age, because that made sense to them.
Okay, because, in this day and age, we say, they shall have no other gods. The other ones go in back of the bus.
Well, now, I'm going to throw out a question then. Maybe does this coincide with the many different names of God? So if you break down the names of God,
yes,
kind of like, instead of having like the God of thunder, God is the God of thunder. He's got he or she is the God of everything. So
right. I think that's what he meant.
And the other question I had too is, it's not so much a question but an observation, is that it's so tempting, especially back then too, when one of the things that I forgot where I picked it up, but it was from another Jewish text, is that one of the worst or one of the most tempting things for people was when they couldn't have kids back in those days, even today. So that was one of the most tempting things, to try to go and find a soothsayer, find a way to get fertile, find a way to have children. That was like, it was so tempting. And of course we have like Rachel, we have Sarah, and they just hung in there, and eventually God delivers, so these are things to think about, I think.
I'm not going to have any more children at 75, though.
Don't speak so quickly. Remember Sarah.
Yes, exactly. Is there nothing impossible?
I'm first going to find somebody to have it with.
Jordan, will you volunteer? You used to give all kinds of, rides to the temple.
Michael, Dr. Zeitcher reminded me of another somewhat older Moses getting the Ten Commandments. And the only one who probably hasn't heard this is maybe Mike, but if you've heard it, I won't tell anybody. So actually, God did not go to Moses first. First, he went to the French and said, "Country of France, I would like to give you the Ten Commandments." And French people said, "Well, what's in there?" They said, "Well, thou shalt not commit adultery." French people goes, "Oh, no, we don't want to touch it." Then he went to the Italians and he said, "At Italy, I would like to give you the Ten Commandments." And they said, "Well, what's in there?" And God said, "Well, thou shalt not steal." And the Italians said, "Oh, no, we don't want that." And then he went to Moses and he said, "Moses, I'd like to give your people the Ten Commandments." Moses said, "How much are they?" And God said, "Free." He said, "I'll take 10. Old joke.
This is kind of an interesting situation. We're reading the Torah and we're telling jokes. Now,
that's human nature, Ed.
No, that's an interesting situation. For 2,000 or more, 5,000 years, there has been anti-Semitism for many thousands of years, and the Jews have suffered throughout where all they have lived throughout eternity. Mm-hmm. But they have kept together, and they can survive through humor. The humor that we're expressing tonight is as important as the Torah that we're reading, because people say that it is the Torah that has kept the Jews together, and others have said it's the humor that have kept the Jews to survive. Right. So this is not a unholy thing to tell jokes during a Torah reading.
We're all learning.
Yeah, I like that, Doctor. That's
very well put.
That's very nice. Who would like to pick up at 15? How about Annie?
You get to unmute, Annie.
All the people witnessed the thunder and lightning, the blare of the horn, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they fell back and stood at a distance. "You speak to us," they said to Moses, "and we will obey. But let not God speak to us, lest we die." Moses answered the people, "Be not afraid, for God has come only in order to test you, and in order that the fear of God may be ever with you, so that you do not go astray." So the people remained at a distance while Moses approached the thick cloud where God was. The Eternal One said to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the Israelites, you yourselves saw that I spoke to you from the very heavens. With me, therefore, you shall not make any gods of silver, nor shall you make for yourselves any gods of gold. Make for me an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings and your sacrifices of well-being, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you. And if you make for me an altar of stones, do not build it of hewn stones. For my wielding your tool upon them, you have profaned them. Do not ascend my altar by steps, that your nakedness may not be exposed upon it."
Okay, if we can hold on in here, Mike, I think there's something very important that we have on 21. Mm-hmm. God says, "Make for me an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offerings." This we did up until the destruction of the second temple.
That's right. Right.
After that, we substituted prayer for burnt offering.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
That's really interesting.
But there's a practical piece to this too. The practical, and I asked this question to a scholar once, did they eat the sacrifices? Did they eat it, or they just killed it and they burnt it and that was it? They ate them.
They ate them.
They ate them.
They ate them. So,
Well, but that's not actually true. Some of them they ate, and some was put aside.
I understand, but they were still consumed.
Yeah, it was consumed.
That's right. That's true.
So the issue is that you got a group of thousands of people that you're going to slaughter sheep and oxen. Then you're going to eat them. By the time the temple came, they were all in Jerusalem. They all lived in houses and they all did whatever. So there wasn't a need for a communal dinner or communal meal. So some people think that this had as much to do about having lunch as it is to do about sacrificing animals.
I don't know about that. I think there's a reason for the sacrifice. It's supposed to be that you're doing something to sacrifice. Like that was their sheep, so they might not have wanted to sacrifice their own sheep and oxen because their oxen and sheep did some service for them.
Yeah, but they had to eat.
And Ed, the other thing I think that we need to point out, because it's going to come out later on in the book of Leviticus, the animals were sacrificed. They were cooked, and then 1/10 of the animals went to the priests.
That's right. That's what I said. It was put aside for the priests.
Yeah, put aside for the priests, and that's the beginning of the tithing system.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then but aren't there? I think there are burnt offerings where there's sometimes isn't there, if I recall correctly, that some burnt offerings God says to burn the entire thing until it's in a cinder. Isn't that correct?
Yeah. Okay. There was some, and then I've read portions that have said that the burnt offerings also are kind of a test for the priest because, like you say, the priest got a portion of the sacrifice, but the burnt offerings, they got nothing. But yet, like in the morning, the priest had to change their garments, and they had to take the ashes and to take them. There was the actual ritual of them taking the ashes outside the camp. And in other words, it's a function that the priests had to perform. It's almost like the mitzvah of burying somebody. It's a major mitzvah because you're doing something for somebody who can't do anything for you.
Okay, but Gary, was that the priests or was that the Levites? The priests didn't do that. The Levites were the ones that took out
according to what I read, I thought it was the Kohanim that has to do it.
Okay.
They have and they have to change their garments. They have to put on special garments just to do this. So they get no personal gain from performing this mitzvah.
Okay, so Mike, the particular animal that you're talking about where everything is burned down to ashes, do you know what the name for that was?
Was it the red cow?
No, well, the heifer. The heifer. Okay. It's called the Holocaust.
The Holocaust.
And that is where we get the Holocaust name for the 6 million that perished by the Nazis. That's where the name Holocaust comes from.
Oh my God.
So when was that? When was that? Where's it said in the Bible?
Let me repeat it. One of the question that a point that Mike was making is that not all the animals were just cooked and consumed.
Right.
A very few of the animals were burned completely down to ashes.
Right, and those are the ones that were called a Holocaust?
And that's called a Holocaust.
And it's in the Bible, it says that
word?
Absolutely.
But I think they changed the name from Holocaust, though, after...
Yeah, they probably did, but that's what...
So what is the name it's called now?
In other words, complete destruction.
Shoah.
Oh, I see. That's what it means.
In Hebrew, it would be Shoah.
And the other thing was, I love what Annie was saying last week. I mean, if you think about that, they're going to have sacrifices to God. with their animals. This is like their money to them, right?
That's what I was saying. That's what they use them for, right?
Right. And so that they have to, and then God wants the perfect one, the most perfect animal. And
right,
so Annie was saying like that you're going to be thinking about God all the time. You're going to be thinking about which animal's going to be the best, which is this. And and so go back to last week's Torah portion and look up. I believe it's toward the end, like at around the 1 hour mark. And Annie said her beautiful thing, like they were all going to be thinking about God all the time, every day. And my pragmatic self says also that if you're going to give God your best lamb to be sacrificed, that means all of your lambs are going to be at a level that is going to be so healthy and so good, because even if you're keeping the second lamb for yourself, for your family, for a party or whatever, it's going to be a real healthy lamb. So there's probably a pragmatic reason why God's saying, I want the best. Give me the best. It's almost like it's a gift to the Hebrews. Like, give me your best so you can live. So you're going in the desert. You're going to be in the desert for 40 years, and of course they ate the manna and all that too. But it's an interesting.
All right, Mike. So as we were talking, I just did a little bit of digging in here. Holocaust, and according to this thing, it says destruction or slaughter. Okay, destruction or slaughter on a mass scale, especially caused by fire or nuclear war. Because in many of the cases, after they did whatever they did, they were actually burning the bodies in the crematoria. So that's where the Holocaust war comes in.
I see.
Wow. And I don't. I want to bring up one point too. That verse 22 and 23. Now these are very interesting because you shall make for me an altar of stones. Do not build of hewn stones. There are Mormons actually who are actually believe that there were a lost tribe of Israel that landed in the New World, landed in America before Columbus, and they are actually excavating areas that show altars not of hewn stones, and also altars where they don't have steps going up to them. They'll have ramps instead, and they take these words right from the Torah to say, see, these people were here. I mean, it's open for interpretation. But there's a lot of stuff online now where you can look at a lot of different theories about a lot of different things. But these two verses are kind of interesting to think that archaeologists are using these two verses to show. To draw lines to and from the ancient Israelites. So it's really fascinating stuff.
Can I ask? I want to ask one question to Mike and to Annie, because you're Christian. In Christianity after Christ, has there ever been sacrifices?
No, Annie. Everyone has a different idea. I think I'll just talk about my own personal opinion, was that Christ was the last sacrifice. That I think what we believe as Christians is that Christ took on the sins of the world, and that he brought the sins of the world to his crucifixion. So when he was crucified, those sins, the Gentile sins of paganism. This is my interpretation. My big thing is, like, I believe Jesus died so that Gentiles could worship God, and that so he brought the sins of the world, and he became that channel to the Israelite God.
I understand, but there was never any sacrifices of animals after Christ.
No, it became kind of a thing in the early Christian tradition to be kind of to give yourself as a sacrifice. Like Peter, for instance, Peter was he was also crucified, but he was crucified upside down. Like he did not want to. He felt like he needed to be he didn't want to do it the same way as Jesus did. He felt like that would have been
Who are you talking about now that was upside down? I didn't hear what.
Peter.
Peter.
Oh, Peter. Oh, Peter. Okay. All right.
His name was. He was one of the disciples where it was one of the disciples that Jesus said, "I'm going to build my house on you because you are a rock." And
I see. I understand.
Petro-
Okay.
Petro was the
And
rock.
Mike, to go a little bit further in your point, that it should not be hewn stones, that it have to be big stones, sort of going up. If you take a look at 23, the word ascend, if you look at the Hebrew, that's aliyah.
Aliyah. That means up. Yeah. Right.
You see it on the right hand side, on the
Yeah.
third, right there.
Right. Aliyah. I see
Aliyah.
it. Yeah. Right.
And that means going back to Israel, right?
Well, it is now. In other words, you make an
It's used in that now. It's
make
used
an
like,
ascent to go to, but that's where the word aliyah comes from.
right.
Annie, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think that. I mean, there's certainly been sacrifices, but I don't think that they were of a religious nature. I think that they were had other reasons for the sacrifices to happen, but I don't think that it was. I don't think that they were offerings to God.
Okay.
And the other thing
Thank you.
too is that in some of our tradition, I think it's in the Hebrew tradition too, there might be some parts where, like this is when the Israelites are in the desert and they have the temple. The temple's going to be built eventually. But doesn't there come a point where one of the prophets says, God doesn't want sacrifice, he wants mercy?
Yeah.
Is that part of the Hebrew Bible?
Yeah, we have to go into the book of prophets for that.
Right. So that there's a kind of a shift or maybe a different concept coming up there. But that's also used by Jesus quite a bit. He's like, no, we don't. God wants mercy. He wants mercy. So, all right, where were we? I think we're at the end. Hold on. Yeah, we're at the essays.
That's it. Okay.
All right.
That's it. That's it, folks. Do-do-do-do-do.
As always, uplifting and enriching.
And as you can see, Mike, this is the first place where we're told to do an animal sacrifice.
Oh yeah,
So it starts here.
that's interesting.
From this point on, that we started doing animal sacrifices.
Am I mistaken? But I seem to remember that I had read once that this is the first place where God and the human actually have a conversation together. Or am I confused?
No, because it's not that you're confused. It's that in the 13 principles of faith by Maimonides, Maimonides says that that God only spoke to Moses. You have to believe that. Okay. And that, most people don't agree with that because if you remember, Abraham spoke, not only did God spoke to Abraham actually was bargaining with him. He bargained them down from 50 down to 10.
Yeah.
So
But Abraham also made sacrifices, the burnt offering.
absolutely right. So
Oh, and also, didn't God speak to Adam and Eve theoretically
yes,
too?
in God, right.
In the Garden of Eden, yeah.
So when that was pointed out to Maimonides when he was alive,
Yeah.
there was this in the year 1000 something.
I remember.
Okay. His answer was, well, what I mean is God spoke to people, but people did not have a chance to answer God, and that was not wrong because they did answer.
Very
So it's in one of the anima minin type thing, I will believe with perfect faith. So when, as a matter of fact, when Moses first came up with that, I'm sure that you guys know, there was tremendous controversy. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you know that one of his books, which is it's called The Guide for the Perplexed.
Yeah.
Jewish people actually burnt his book.
Oh yeah. No, he was like a what is it called?
He was a heretic.
Heretic, right? Yeah.
He was a heretic in his age.
Heretic, right? Heretic, right?
1,000
Yeah.
years later, my
Right,
mom,
right.
big deal. But during the time that he was alive, people were saying, "Hey, you came up with all. Who the hell are you to come up with that?"
Right.
But I don't know
It's
whether
like Martin Luther.
Right.
I don't know when you guys went to Israel, because I couldn't make it at that time. I wish I could have done it. I don't know if you went to the burial place of Maimonides, and you know what it says in there? From Moses unto Moses, there were none like Moses.
Yeah, right.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Michael, did you guys go there?
I don't
No, I
recall.
don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we made it there. We made it to King David's tomb. Whoa, that was.
Hey, Ed, are you back in China? Is that what I said?
I'm back in
beautiful.
China.
It's beautiful.
I'm in space. Do you notice I'm in space? I finally figured out how to get one.
Yeah, I just figured it out. So
Yeah.
I'm
It
back in
took me a
China.
long time.
I've been to
I haven't
China.
figured out how to get my pictures though. I only can do the ones that they show here, so I haven't
No, but-
figured out the others.
Now,
yet.
for you guys who don't know Ed, do you know, for the people who don't know this, do you know that Ed speaks Chinese?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was in I can tell you a quick story. I was in China, and they were negotiating back and forth because you have to bargain for everything. So we got halfway through the bargaining in English, and I flipped over to Chinese, and they got really upset, and they said to me in Chinese, "Why do you speak Chinese?" And I said, because I'm Jewish. And they kind of looked at me and they walked away. They said, "Okay, that was all right."
Well, but interesting enough, there is a whole sect of Chinese Jews.
Yes, there are. I went to Shanghai once. Went to Shanghai.
Yeah.
And Elaine and I we were in Shanghai, but the outskirts is a synagogue. And in fact, I might even have the address of that synagogue somewhere. Anyway, we went to that synagogue and we got there, and we found it, and it was undergoing complete restoration. It was complete restoration. It was really quite something, and it was closed. We couldn't get in. So for fun, I banged on the door of this boarded up synagogue inside, and as luck have it, the man came to the door and asked me what I wanted. And I said, "I'm Jewish, I'm from Boston, I want to see the synagogue." And he looked at me, and there was a fence with a gate on it, and he opened the fence and he grabbed me by the shirt and he yanked me in, and then he grabbed Elaine and he yanked her in, and he locked us into the synagogue. And here we were locked in the synagogue with this Chinese man, and he said in broken English, "Go enjoy." So we spent 28 minutes, maybe an hour in there, an hour. It was just incredible. And on the way out, I said, "Are you Jewish?" He said, No, I like Jewish holidays. I said, "What Jewish holidays?" And he said, "Purim, not Shmini Atzeret."
Wow.
And he was the docent of the synagogue.
Right. Oh, wow.
And off we went. And I should dig them up. I have some unbelievable pictures.
Oh, I'd love to see those.
Of that synagogue.
Did you get to meet any Chinese Jews?
No. The only Jews I ever met in China was orange and tomato Jews. But
When my father was a little boy growing up in the south end of Boston, he told me this story that he went home from school to play with this Chinese child, a little boy. And in the house, there were pictures and the Chinese people wearing yarmulkes and so on. And he said, "Who is the family?" And they were Jewish.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to have met them.
Cynthia, we had a speaker
Wow.
in Malden before we left, and I still have the book somewhere of a speaker who documented all of the Jews of China, and there weren't many, but he documented, and he did speak at our temple. I remember that. And I did buy the book. I have been to China 3 times. I thoroughly enjoy being there every second I can. My Chinese is because I don't nobody to speak to Chinese with. But when I get there, I learn some more as much as I can. But it's a very interesting place, China. I've done a tremendous amount of travel in my life, and that's one of my favorite places is going to China.
Hey, Ed, I know the name of the street where that synagogue was in China. It's called Neelan Street.
Neelan Street, yes. Yeah, Neelan
And
Street.
they all said they didn't look Jewish.
Yeah. I told you I went to services in Bangkok once. A huge Jewish group in Bangkok.
Wow.
Which caught me by surprise. But anyway,
Okay, Eitz Chaim, everybody muted up. Can you hear me? Okay, here we go. Thank you.
Oh, and the Torah's returned to the ark.
Yes, you may all be seated.
Much love.